So this is a high gold Zarya bot, and I kind of watched this in advance, and I'm not gonna lie, it is a win, and it's a 2-0 win as well. So I'm not super super stoked about that. It's just that a lot of mistakes were being covered and not punished, and a lot of what I say will have to be hypotheticals of like, oh, here this should have happened, that should have happened, instead of, look, this bad thing happened because of your bad action. So that's why I generally coaches like to review losses, is because mistakes are not covered. So right off the bat, this bubble is bad. One, because your Ryan isn't quite pushing into the enemy quite yet. So the other explanation is that this bubble is for energy, but even it doesn't get energy. So it's a 0 value bubble, and you actually self bubble right here. I'll be talking a lot of bubbles, by the way. Although you bubble here, you weren't actually taking any damage quite yet, and therefore you didn't gain energy. But you were booped in there, so you bubbled, so it's not that bad. Your DPS here actually just frag. You bubble your break, which, in my opinion, it should be a Rhyme going in first, and you bubble your Rhyme so you can aggress. But bubbling your break is not too bad either if he's going in. He's kind of like a mini Rhyme. Break's kind of like a mini Rhyme. So we win the fight because our DPS just literally just get 2 picks. And right there, your bubble and your damage are quite minimum. So honestly, right there, your value was very, very low, but your DPS won the fight for you. So you were actually just carried in this fight. Alright, so you see the Zarya behind you, you see the Farah in front. I like that you bubble yourself out instead of going aggressive. Alright, so somehow your break gets the soldier. Somehow they're trickling in. So this is honestly your enemies being really, really bad. They're kind of trickling in. They're not going in any sort of togethery fashion. I'm not even sure I'm not even sure if they had a tank that pushed in with their squishies. So excuse me. So they kind of made huge mistakes right there. Your Hanzo gets another pick, which is actually massive. So here your bubble gets minimal amount of, but you just take one volley of shurikens. Yeah, the person that I would have been concerned about taking poke, and if I wanted to charge energy rather, I would definitely have been waiting for the Orisa to spam at me. As in this Orisa to spam, and it would have given a lot of energy, just because there are a lot of pellets in the air, because it's a projectile, so you can gain a lot of energy from it. I like this bubble in the break, because your break is sucked in. They're going to be focusing your break, so you just bubble him to save him. In that instance, on the Zen, track. Alright, you could have definitely done a finishing right click on the Zen, but it's not a big deal. Wouldn't have made that big of a difference in that fight. So it's already won. Fairly good self bubble to gain energy. Timing it with the Hanzo's Storm Arrow. So you just use this to gain energy, and it's not ideal. Your Rhyme should have definitely been pushing up, or basically trying to take space and be aggressive with the bubble. So the bubble there kind of enabled him to do nothing. So even though it was his fault for doing nothing, you bubbled him at a time where he was doing nothing to get energy. So you're prioritizing getting energy, but you're not that good at it, in my opinion. So just one tip for Zaryas is that self bubble is generally used to get energy for yourself. So you step into spam, you get 40 energy, but your team bubble is really important for enabling a teammate's action, enabling your Rhine to push in, or saving your teammates. You want to enable your Pharah to barrage, for example. You want to enable your Mercy to res. So these are the kind of things team bubble is really, really useful for. And Rhine, of course, you use it to enable your Rhine's aggression. And once you're high energy, of course, your self bubble can be used to tank for your teammates. So you can use it to be really aggressive, and your beam and get a lot of alt charge for your graph. So now you do have graph, and let's see how you use it. So your McCree was being a little bit brave, and you bobbled him, and it's not ideal, but I definitely don't blame you for doing it. So you bubble out yourself out of the dragon because you were caught in it. Alright, that was great. And this is actually a good graph. Okay, this is actually a good graph. Okay, you step out and you bubble. Alright, so now your target prioritization is a little bit off. You're trying to shoot a Moira that's in Coalescence, and Coalescence means that Moira will be gaining 50 health per second, and she gains a speed boost. So it's really hard to kill a Moira while she's in Coalescence. It's really hard to track her down. And not to mention, your team is much closer to the Orisa, the Bongo, and the other the Zarya that they have. So right now in this scenario, I would definitely have been focusing the Orisa ultimate, the Supercharger. So what you're doing right now is providing no real value to the fight. So the Bongo dies, the Orisa dies, and I'd just like to point out one more time, while you're shooting the Moira, let me play and pause and see if we get there. Alright, so this is the Zarya's health, and look at it, okay? This is how much health the Zarya has. One bar is about 25 HP, so this Zarya maybe has just a smidge above 50 HP. In fact, maybe he has less than 50 HP. So if you had just provided one right click into that, the Zarya would be dead. And watch, the Zarya bubbles out and actually lives. So you provided, although that was a good graph, I'm not gonna lie, and you provide some damage in the graph when they coalescence. During the coalescence, you provided no value during the fight. So you definitely should have been focusing the target with your team. Focusing the easier to hit targets especially. And by easier targets, I mean, your Brick and your Rhine are in range of them, so you should definitely focus them with your team. So you rally, aim them down. Alright. So yeah, what I'm seeing so far is honestly you are not being very, very influential in each fight. Your DPS are just kind of fragging. Out, Plus in that last fight, although you got a good graph, I won't lie, but your Rhine, Brick, and 2 DPS were the ones that did most of the actual important damage to the team fight. Excuse me. So same comp. You call to go right? Alright. I watched this beforehand, so I know what happens. So your right hand kind of zones out, it happens. Alright, so your team pushes him up. Thanks! Could any of this have been prevented? It's not. I'll say this is not your fault, but So this self bubble, alright, immediately I just see you are not actually taking any damage. In fact, the one that I would have bubbled straight away if we wanted to have any chance of winning. The second this boop happened, I would definitely have looked to bubble the Rhine. Actually, you don't have bubble. Actually, what do you? Let me just check. What do you use the bubble on? The McCree. Let me just back up 5 more seconds and see what's the scenario that you would bubble your McCree. Actually, yeah, there's no reason to bubble your McCree. He is peeking in, but the one further in front is the brick. They'll be focusing your brick. So if you had bubble your brick, I would have agreed with that. I disagree with this self bubble because you aren't taking any damage, so it definitely won't gain you any energy, and you bubble your Rhine in. You know, I mean that's this is a good bubble in your Rhine. So you know, the circumstances were that these good bubbles didn't really matter that much because, you know, split up team, it happens. I mean, it happens in gold and plat. Oh, your brick actually makes it across. Alright, so now it's actually go time. You guys have to go. It is indeed go time. So again, this self bubble, you're bubbling before you even take any amount of damage. So they are not shooting at you. So why are you bubbling? Even if it's for energy, you're not going to get any energy unless people are actually shooting at you. So your brick gets nano, you bubble him. I would say it's okay. That bubble is definitely okay. Shatter probably not needed on the Genji, but you know, he might have killed a lot of people. I'm not gonna lie. So alright, your McCree commits Sudoku. How unfortunate. So right here, you are 0 energy and it's before a fight. I would definitely be looking to gain some energy, so that when they do push in, you are doing more damage than, you know, you would be at 0 energy. You would actually be a threat. So I'd have looked to use my self bubble on the fire rockets. You just get 2 and you're already in business. You get 40 energy. So where is your Rhine? Your Rhine's kind of a bit out. So right here, I'd have looked to bubble your brick, since your brick is kind of going in. So the bubble definitely have enabled his aggression and allowed him to do really aggressive things. So right now you're refraining from using your bubbles, and you're at 0 energy. So you kind of you're kind of providing 0 value whatsoever. Even your damage is like largely negligible. So I like the bubble. But this was kind of after your team has won the fight, maybe? Yeah, it was. Your team had already gotten 2 picks, so you only provided value after your team got 2 picks. So when the Farah barrage, I would definitely just look to press E, bubble someone to help them out. Possibly gain some energy as well. So actually, I'll just like to point out, how long have you had Graph? Alright, you had Graph right about here. So now that you had Graph, the prime area to Graph on Lijiang Gardens is, let me just wait until you actually have Graph, because you do look in the direction I want you to look at. Alright, so the prime area, and you guys are actually up people, okay? So the prime area to Graph is actually around this area, because it is extremely difficult for people to help their teammates, and it is very easy for you to, of course, kill them. because of this wall, it protects you from the rest of their team. And the graph obviously just holds them in place and you can just very easily kill them. So I would have definitely looked to graph in that area. They beat even. And you guys lose. You lose your main tank, they have a shield tank, so not necessarily winnable. I mean, not great, but actually it's clutchable. If you wanted to go for a riskier clutch play, you could have used Graph, to be honest. Yeah, this is definitely winnable. I would have graphed right about here and just focused on the Ana. If you take away the Ana, it'd be super big. Oh, now you're down your healers and you definitely lost. Could you have graphed them? How long did you have? Yeah, definitely winnable. Yep. Yeah, I would have liked to use graph on Diana. Priority target. But resetting is, you know, with combo is also a, you know, it's a good plan. Alright, somehow your McCree gets the big hit, so lose main tank, they lose Lucio. I would have liked to graph right here. Your break is kind of already hitting them, and holding them in place would be really, really nice. So yeah, you're holding on to graph, and I don't know what you're waiting for, but if you're waiting for the perfect 6-man graph, you know, that is unrealistic. Alright, so now you see the graph. I mean, you see the blade and you look to grab it. Alright. Hanzo's dancing. Alright. Yeah, I'd definitely like to see the graph come. I'd have liked to see the graph come out on the two tanks. And honestly, by the time the Genji pull out the blade, you guys have 100% won the fight. There should be no way. Wow, your Hanzo even dragons that. Alright. Yeah, there should be no way your team loses that, even if he blades and kills your Ana. I mean, Graph here would be nice, but I would have liked to see Graph come out on the two tanks. Alright, I honestly like that bubble. You saw that the Genji was sneaking up on your Hanzo, could have triple headshot dash, you bubble him. I like that. Even though it didn't gain you a lot of energy, it was saving a teammate's life or enabling an action. So your break and your Hanzo clutch up. Let's see, I just want to make sure, how much value does this projected give? Your previous projected rather. Yeah, okay, that's the one. Okay, we're here. Alright, I kind of wasn't 100% sure. So this self bubble again, you weren't taking damage and you bubble. I like this bubble of the break. I would have liked the bubble to come up a little bit earlier when he pushes in. Let's point out the exact moment. He's swinging, he's shielding. Yeah, I would have liked to see the bubble come up right about now, immediately. So he takes a lot of damage before you bubble him. So he just kind of shields while the bubble, and they overlap. So not ideal. So in this last fight, you do a decent amount of. You do actually not even that much. It's an okay amount. Your team kind of clutched up. Okay, so your team wins the fight very convincingly. Alright, so right off the bat, you're actually not doing a lot of damage to the enemy, because you are permanently very low energy, and this kind of stems from your bubble usage, right? So for yourself bubble, just make sure that people are actually shooting at you before you use your self bubble to take energy. And when you're high energy, you already use it, you know, to be aggressive, to disengage or whatnot. So that's actually good from you when you're high energy. Your friendly bubbles, your team bubbles, they definitely need to be later as well. You need to make sure that your team is ready to you wanted to enable an action like I said before, which is your Rhine pushing in, and saying it again, Mercy, bubble Mercy to rest, bubble Genji to blade, bubble Farah to barrage, bubble Reinhardt to go in is in general the plan when you have a Reinhardt on your team. So I would definitely have liked to see you call to your Rhine to be much more aggressive with your bubble, especially since both of you were in team voice. The one time he was walking on the bridge, he kind of zoned out between rounds and just kind of didn't listen. So that kind of happens sometimes. And yeah, your target priority also could use a lot of work. You should aim to hit the easy targets to charge your graph, and hit the targets that your team can reach as well. Because Zarya's range isn't super long, so you hitting people that your Rhine can also hit is a great bonus. Not a great bonus, but should be what you're doing. For a big example would be hitting the two tanks that you had grabbed before on the previous point on Night Market. In terms of right clicks, I couldn't really point out a lot because the enemies were kind of rarely grouped up to take a lot of damage. Actually, let me rewind to when you were looking at the Hammond. Was it right about here? Or was it earlier? There was a point where the Hammond and the Orisa were together. Alright, you beamed on the guy. I think this is a little bit too late. Was it this push? Yeah, so I just like to just want to make doubly sure. Are you right clicking into them? But you have graphs, so you're focusing them. I see. Okay. So right clicking into groups of enemies would be what I like to see, although there weren't many opportunities to really do that because your DPS were just fragging out. And next time when you want to submit a VOD for review of any coach, I suggest you send in a loss. It just means that there are less mistakes covered, and I can point out right in front of you, oh, this action by you caused this bad thing to happen. And when your mistakes are being covered by, frankly, really great DPS on your team, they are just kind of fragging out, and so a lot of mistakes that you made weren't being punished. And I just like another thing to point out is that you only got one graph per King of the Hill, and you kind of got it fairly late in the round, and usually higher rated Zaryas, of course, will charge their graph. We'll get at least 2 graphs in one run of King of the Hill, sometimes 3 if it's they're doing really well, and if it's goats v goats or something, they might even get 4, or crazy, I've even seen someone get 5. So yeah, you are actually not providing a lot of value. So what I'd like you to do is mainly focus on your 2 bubbles and make sure that they get more value, whether it's getting more energy or enabling your teammates' action. I hope you learned something.